Thanks for being here. Super duper excited to have Tao in the house. I already said that once, so I'm not going to say it again. But I was introduced to him a couple years ago by somebody that we both know. His name is Neil Barkley, and Neil said, "Mark, you got to check out this guy Tao. He's not only played in the NFL, but he's an opera singer." And I was amazed, because to me, the work that I do, it's all about helping athletes transition from their sport to what's next. And you hear oftentimes about athletes that go into something that's very similar to what they did as an athlete. You can't really find something much more opposite, I think, than NFL and opera. So without further delay, I'm going to bring him in, and then I'm going to embarrass him with some more intro stuff. So Tao, why don't you join us in the big room here, if you could? And there he is. All right. Whoa. Put on something else. Look at that. So, look, what are we, like in the in Hollywood here with the different outfit changes? What do you got going on over there? I'm impressed.
I didn't. So I this is what I wore.
All right. No, that's cool. And listen, in a little while, we'll take a 30-second break so you can put on something else. So that way you'll be used to being like, performing again on the big stage. But thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to get through some of this quickly, but, and we're going to actually go through your story a little bit, but, tell me, actually, I'm going to do it in a question format here, a little bit easier. I remember that you said that when you're very young, you moved to the States, but you were born and raised in the Kingdom of Tonga. And for everyone who knows that, and because, quite frankly, every American is always really well educated in geography. It is approximately exactly, I think, if you dig a hole really straight down, you're going to hit Tonga on the other side, right? Give or take.
You might hit China, but you might have to get onto your canoe and paddle, hit New Zealand, and then New Zealand, Tonga.
There you go. Well, so what was it that brought you to, what brought your family to the States?
A better life. Better life. Yeah, education and all.
And so you were 5, right, when you came, I believe? Yeah.
I was 5, and my parents packed us 9 kids, and we got on the plane and flew over to Hawaii, then Hawaii to Utah.
That's amazing. And so at what point, did you start playing football, and did you start realizing, wait a minute, I'm actually pretty good at this sport?
I started playing football when I was 10. So by the time I got to high school, I was told I was big and fast. And so got a scholarship to a college, and then Bill Belichick rolled around and drafted me to the Cleveland Browns.
Now, Bill Belichick's, I don't think anybody's really heard of him. He's kind of a small name in this football. But now, is he... So back then he was pretty obviously involved in stuff, even with the Browns. But so you got drafted, and tell me just real quickly, because I want to move on to some other things in a minute or so. But give me just real quickly the experience of what it felt. I mean, you played football in high school, you played it in college, and then you got drafted. And you explain to me the first time you walk into the stadium there in the NFL. What was that feeling like?
All right. So in college, everybody, you have your good people, and then you have some fast people, players and all. But when you make it into the NFL, everyone's fast and everyone is strong. All right. So you just have to up your game and all that. And the competitiveness is very high. And, you have to make your plays. But you talk about walking into a stadium, especially in Cleveland, you have the dog pound and all that. So it's just really loud and everything. But for me, coming from Utah, it was just one of those moments of, this is awesome. I mean, you couldn't hear your teammates, especially when you make a play, you see yourself on the big screen making the tackle, the sack and all, but it's surreal. It's fantastic. I recommend it to everyone. If you could get out there and play, put your heart to it. But yeah, I mean, to play at a professional level was incredible.
So I want to skip ahead because you played for a little while, but tell me a little bit about what it was like to, because obviously football can be a physical game and it can be a violent game, obviously. Explain to me a little bit about how, the impact of injuries, not just at the end of your career, but even during, and so how do they impact your career?
Well, growing up in Utah and being the youngest out of 9, life was challenging, especially coming from the
Right.
islands. And so things were on me, right? And, to help out the family and all. And so you get that first paycheck, you help everyone out, and you just like help out your family and all. And when I got injured, I just remembered like, what's going on? What am I going to do now? And so I stayed with the team for about 3 months. And then I haven't made a name for myself, like Tom Brady was to get hurt, they would literally keep him and fix him. But with me, I was still coming up that ladder. And so for me, and I just went back to Utah, didn't know what to do. And I remembered that I have another talent. And so I decided to pursue in the music field. And so that's when I moved to New York and decided to go
Wait
after
a second. You skipped a big chunk there. So that's cheating, by the way. You're not allowed to do that in my show. I don't even know what that means. But the short version is this, that Tao, you had this injury and then you were home for a while, actually, for a little while. And sounds like, from what I understand, and we've had some conversations about this, but there were some dark times for you because you were sort of thinking, well, geez, I reached the culmination of my sport at the time, my profession, and now I'm injured, and now I'm sort of, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but sort of a broken piece and so forth. What can I do to really reclaim a lot of that? And I think it took a little while for you to sort of come out of that. And then I love the story. Tell me the story. Tell everyone the story about the $100 bill.
Yeah, so exactly what you said. So, for us, for us players, when you get injured, you sort of go back home and you feel defeated. And so I guarantee that a lot of us go through depression, because we don't know what to do. And so, you ask a lot of questions and everything, but you got to find, for me, I had to find myself again. And so through the power of like just a lot of prayers and just a lot of believing in myself, that I could go into a music career, I decided to move to New York. And the reason why I moved to New York is because, California is for Hollywood, movie stars and all that. New York is the place of music. You have Juilliard, you have Broadway, you have a lot of these things. And so I moved to New York, and I remember my family, the only New York that they known was watching it on TV, the graffiti, the shooting, the killing, the kidnapping and all. And so my family, especially my grandma, she was really nervous for me to come out here. And so she gave me this $100 bill. And she said, I don't have much. This is what I could give you. And, and I said to her, I said, Grandma, it's okay. I have my own money. It's fine. She goes, no, please take this because we don't know what New York is like. So I took that $100 and I came out here to New York. And I thought to myself, I'll buy my grandma something nice, for either Christmas or for her birthday. But when that time came, I decided, why should I use my grandma's money? It's just like if my grandma was to buy herself her own present. So of course I would buy it and give it to her. And as time went on, my grandma passed away in 2008, and I kept this $100, and I still have this $100 to remind me the beginning of my journey to New York. And so I have this $100 bill that's just sitting in the bedroom, in the room, and just, I don't know if I could ever spend it. And so this $100 bill really means
Oh,
a lot.
that's great. And I think, hopefully most of us have little things like that maybe other people don't know the story about it, but it's something that does mean a lot that we can sort of look on and look to for inspiration, motivation, and just some great memories. And I think that's such a great story. So you roll into New York, you drove here, but what I never asked you this. What'd you do with your car? Did you sell it, keep it? What'd you do with it?
No, no, no. I packed my one suitcase and got on an airplane
Ah,
and
okay.
flew here. And so I had no knowledge of, I didn't know anyone out here and how do you become an opera singer. And all I knew was I grew up playing football, so I knew that the playbooks, how to succeed in football. And so I brought that playbook with me to New York. And what do you do with the playbook is that you study. And so I decided to, like, how do you become an opera singer is to position myself in a area where there will be a lot of traffic of musicians. And so I didn't know what to do and how do you position yourself like that. But I remember the Metropolitan Opera House and Juilliard School of Music was right there, and there were tons of restaurants. And so I decided to, Mark, I really had to, to be honest with you, I really had to humble myself to go and get into the business of restaurants. It's like after you played in the biggest fields with 80, 90,000 people and then all of a sudden you have to like come down from that cloud and say, you know what, I'm going to go and work at a restaurant so I can meet people.
Right.
And so that's exactly what I did. Got a job because I wanted to be a waiter. I wanted to be a host. And the reason why I became a host at a restaurant was because I knew that if I work at this restaurant across the street from the Metropolitan Opera, that giants would come into this restaurant to eat, like Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, great conductors, great directors, and all. And I know that a lot of the students from Juilliard would come in and eat, and where I could talk to them and say, "Who's your voice teacher?
Right.
Who's your coach or whatever." So that's the reason why I position myself in that playbook of football that I use. It became handy. And so I positioned myself in that area. So every time all these great people would come in, I would, especially with the opera singers, because in New York, the restaurants are very loud, right? And so I would study these giants, Pavarotti, and he would come in and I would sit there and go, what is he going to eat? Because I know that if you eat different types of food, it causes phlegm. Does he drink alcohol before he sings? Because I know that alcohol dries the vocal cords. And so, like, how loud does one talk in a noisy restaurant? Is he saving his voice? And so I would study these people and I would write it down. And then I would talk to the students of Juilliard, find out who they're studying with. And then I would just go from plan A to plan B to C and try to figure out how to become an opera singer. And so that's how I did it.
Well, you skipped a little part so at what point did you feel you were in a position that you could, really apply to Juilliard? I mean, this is Juilliard's Juilliard. This is not, Bob's like, whatever, learn how to sing school, right?
Right. Well, I do have to give lots of credit to also because when you're a football player, you have to practice, right? You have to practice a lot and you have to perform. And so in order for me to get some kind of practice and some kind of performance, I started going to, even the church that I went to was right next to Juilliard. And because I knew I wanted to be around that area. So I would do a lot of my performances and practice in front of church people at this church that I went to. And so that gave me courage and that gave me faith that I could get out there and do it. Though sometimes church people lie to you, say that you're fantastic when you really suck. But at least, it builds up your self-esteem. So and so so I would do that, and but I went to I kept on practicing, and I took lessons and all, and then I went to the Metropolitan Opera one day, and ran into a very famous opera singer from New Zealand. She's Maori, and so when she sat there, she looked up, and I was there to get her autograph. She looked up, and because you don't see many Polynesians out here in New York. So when she looked up and saw me, she just asked, is anyone helping me? Can I help you? And I said, sure. And she took me under her wings. And 8 months later, she took me over to Juilliard, where I auditioned for the top program at Juilliard. And there was like 100, I believe there was like 110 people auditioning to get into this program. And, they just kept on chopping it down the block, chopping it. And it's like, it finally came down to the last day where it was announced. I got a phone call. It said, congratulations, Tao. You are one of 3 people that were taking. So it was amazing. So I got into Juilliard and did some studying and singing, and
that's amazing.
Graduated.
And so before I go on much further, just real quickly, I just want to point out to everybody that on the right side of your screen, you'll see it says chat, participants, and Q&A. If you have any questions at all for not just for Tao, but for myself as well, please feel free to put them in there. And then what we'll do is at some point, we'll be able to bring you in and have you ask Tao the question directly. So, and if you don't want to be brought in, please mention that, but otherwise I'm going to bring you in. So anyway, that's that. So going from there, and you graduate from Juilliard, what's the process from getting, graduating to then getting, is it on you to get the gigs? Are people coming to you for that? How does that work?
So while I was still attending Juilliard, I guess the word was out that there is a wonderful tenor who's 6'5" and good voice, and so I would get a lot of opportunities to go out and sing while I was still at school. Once I got out of school, you get yourself an agent, and once that agent takes you, they find you work, and so if somebody says, where do you work? You sort of say, I work wherever I can, like in Germany or Italy or Russia or here in the States. And so, with this singing gig, it literally took me all over the world, and to opera houses around the world and stages and everything that football couldn't. And so, somebody asked me, is there some kind of comparison with football and opera? And I would say yes, in many ways. You both are performers. One is just done on the grass or astroturf, or one is on the plywood and stuff. But you get up there. The thing is, with football is a team sport, right? So everybody's a family, and everybody sort of groups together. It's like you win the team and the game and all that. And opera is like something else. You think you're a family, but you really aren't. Everybody wants to be the quarterback. Everybody wants to throw that touchdown pass, and everybody wants to be the star. And so it's different. But sometimes I get angry at directors or conductors, and you just want to tackle them, but you can't. Lawsuit.
Well, on the fine print behind of every ticket in the opera, it does say if you're sitting in the first few rows, there is the chance that you might get hit by a flying object, I think, right? And so if it's a conductor flying through the air, I think you're covered. So I'm not a lawyer, anyway, so I can't protect you there. That's very cool. So anyways, yes, it helps being 6'5". You get noticed a little bit more, and you sing in these incredible stages around the world. And you're right. I think that there's so many similarities, and then there's a couple differences. But the whole concept where I mean, you've got to get up for every performance, just like you have to get up for every game. So there's similarities there. Obviously, performing in front of a crowd, you're used to that as a football player, so it adapts well into the opera, and singing there. And there's also certainly that sense of competition that you're right, even though you're playing as a team in football, but you are still competing against the first string, second string, the different other people playing your position. So there's a lot of that. But at the end of the day, you're right. It's interesting when you told me that another time about how there's lots of quarterbacks who all want to throw, the game-winning touchdown in the opera and so forth. Although I'm guessing there aren't too many. I mean, there are certain people for certain roles, so you're not going to have everybody doing everything. But I like that. Now, one thing I'm curious about, when you're singing an opera, it's a different style, obviously. Is it something that you can do, that you can perform on a nightly basis or twice a night or something? Or is there something where you need to rest your voice for a while? What's that like?
Yeah, so with opera singers, we our body is our instrument, and so a lot of times we would sing one night, rest the next day, and then sing the following, or rest for 2 days. Versus Broadway, Broadway is different because they're mic'd,
Right.
right? And so they don't. In opera, we're not mic'd. We have to literally project, like here at the Metropolitan Opera. I think it's 4,000 seats. Now you have to sing over the orchestra to that last person sitting at the balcony, in this big hall of 4,000 seats. And so you just have to learn how to project. In Broadway, you don't really need to project because you're mic'd, and you could just sing very little and they could just turn up, your mic. And so that's why I mean, I'm not down in Broadway. I'm just saying that, in Broadway, you could save your voice a lot by just, you could just whisper and stuff. Don't make me demonstrate because I'm not going to demonstrate. But with Broadway, they just like, they can sing really soft, and they could just jack up the mic, the volume.
So I think you misled me, because earlier today I think you were telling me that you would sing some AC/DC in a few minutes, but we'll negotiate that in a little while. Anyway, so how long now have you been without? I mean, how long have you now had? When did you graduate Juilliard? How long has it been now in terms of being able to travel the world and perform like this?
So I graduated from Juilliard in 2011. Okay. And so I started singing, when I was still at Juilliard. So maybe 2009 when I started doing professional gigs, traveling and all. But the last time I sang was, I was in Australia last year, 2020. In March, and then this pandemic hit and everything shut down, and so the opera in Australia was canceled. So I came back to the States, and been here ever since.
Now, I did notice a little bit on your social media that you did do some driving around the States when you came back. Tell me a little bit about that experience, seeing different small towns and how they were adapting to what was going on and so forth.
Well, Mark, I believe, we're here to live, right? And we're here to enjoy life, and we're here to experience a lot of nature and just a lot of great things. So when this pandemic hit, I came back from Australia, quarantined for 2 weeks, but New York for about a month and a half, and I was like, I'm out of here. So I got on the plane and flew to Utah and rented a car for a month, and decided to hit all the national parks as much,
Wow.
And so I drove, and I was in Montana, I was in Idaho, Nevada, Utah, California. So I did a lot, and I was able to, go and see a lot of nature and just enjoy myself, but also to reflect and think of what's my next move, with this pandemic. But what was so great about driving by yourself and seeing all these great things was that you could sing whatever you want in the car. and nobody's going to judge you or hear you. And you just roll down the windows and just holler. And so it was pretty exciting. But I did it. I traveled 3 times in 2020, so I saw a lot of like great things.
That's really cool. So how is this, because as you said, everything's shut down. Give me a sense of how that's impacted sort of you physically and your voice and how long is it going to take to get you back to, we'll say fighting shape, but to singing shape again?
Because I've been keeping up on my exercise, thank God for football, because, once your mind is trained in that way of thinking, of exercising and getting back into shape. So I walk 5 miles a day, which is like 35 miles a week, 140 miles a month. So the month of January, I walked 140 miles. And so, I try to keep that up, and I try to do some yoga, some breathing, some positive meditation of, just keeping the body ready to sing. I listen to a lot of great singers, so I could remember what they sound like, what I want to sound like. And so it's just keeping yourself in that mode of, if I need to get back into the field, I could be ready in a week and a half. And so once things open up,
So, so I think what you're saying is that, so right now, if you were to do some, for argument's sake, some nice quiet music like Led Zeppelin or AC/DC or some Twisted Sister, as we said earlier, that wouldn't impact your voice too much, would it? Don't answer. That's okay. Listen, I'm going to bring in a couple of people to ask their questions. I know that we've got a few of them lined up. So I want to bring in first, I'm going to bring Matt in here, and Matt has, I think, a couple of questions to jump in and ask. So come on in, Matt.
How's it going? So the 2 questions I had, I guess they're kind of related to television, but did you ever see the show Glee? I forget what program it was, but they had like a whole season where it was people at a special school and how cutthroat it was. And was Juilliard like that?
Oh yeah. I could totally relate to that, especially when other people from another music school will come in, like Manhattan School of Music or something. It's just when they would enter when they would come to Juilliard, you would just see all these like knives drawn out, like I'm better than you, I'm a better singer than you, and all. I think it's like that in any kind of like competitive field. There's a lot of cutthroat. There's a lot of like, you gotta just choose your battles and go after it, or you just keep silent and just be great in what you do.
And the other question was about America's Got Talent. They've had an influx of opera singers on it. Have you watched any of them? Some real young people too. And have you ever thought of going on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the word I'm an opera singer is like, it's used very loosely, like the word, now diva. It's used very loosely, like, wow, that person's a diva. No, they're not. Do you know what a diva is? Diva was used in the opera world as someone that, was difficult, but also like, you need this person, but when you see American Idol and all that, I'm not trying to down them because I'm very happy for them to get out there and use the word opera singer. And, it helps us people who's in the business to bring out the awareness of opera singer. But when you hear them, good for them.
I'm talking more about, I don't watch American Idol, but it was more like America's Got Talent had some pretty, I don't know how good they are, but they seem to be pretty good. I guess the follow-up question to that is, how good are you? And like when you talk about football, like what's the next level for you? What does that mean for you to get to the next level, or are you there already?
I think I've arrived. I think I've arrived. I've sung at the biggest opera houses in the world, and so I mean, how much further can you go by singing at these big opera houses in the world? I think if we were to talk into to become a big star in opera, then a lot of times a lot of opera singers will hire publicists, to get their name out and put themselves in magazines and all that. I don't have one. I mean, so far I've got a lot of attention, by the grace of God, that I've been, in a lot of things and without hiring a publicist. But I'm sure that if I was to hire one, I mean, it would be a different, ball game.
Okay. Well,
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, I don't want to brag or anything, but I mean, you're in the club room. I mean, what the hell? You don't need a publicist for this. This is amazing. Well done. Hey, so Dahlia, I'd love for you to jump in and ask your question. I think you can just come right in and ask Tao your question if you could.
Yes, I got it. Awesome. So thanks for being here, Tao. Loved hearing your story and sharing your evening with us. My question really centers around the blending of your being an elite athlete, and now obviously you're elite in the opera world, and in the arts more broadly. And I'm a big believer that no matter what job you have, whether it's in business or the arts or sports, whatever it is, there are always going to be those transferable skills or their transferable mindsets. And I think that as an elite athlete, you just have this constant will to get better and practice, like you said, and be disciplined. But I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit on that in terms of the resilience that you've shown to start completely over with a completely different career, and kind of what those skill sets and mindsets that carried you this far have been.
Yeah, I believe if you're a parent that have young kids and you put them in any kind of it could be piano, football, it could be baseball or whatever, anything that's competitive. I believe that sets them up, for the future of work ethics, like how to, like it's time to practice. So the brain as a young child, becomes, it develops and, they could solve their own problems. They don't need anyone to tell them, that this is this and this is that or whatever, but they could handle their own problem, their own issues and everything. I'm not saying that they don't need guidance from parents or mentors. I'm just saying that in general, people that played sports or have done piano or whatever, they have, they could, it sets them up in this world of competitiveness. And so for me, growing up playing football, and, once I got into, that's why I was talking about the playbook, when I first moved to New York, I decided, this is what I need to do. And so I'm going to stick to this. And, help came after I decided to take this journey. And I believe that, if people want to do something, they just have to take that step. The door is right there. You have the key in your hand. You just have to unlock it and walk through that door. And if you need help, just ask for help. There's always someone there to help you.
Oh, that was a great question. Thanks, Dahlia. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Tao.
All right. And that's perfectly stated because, again, I think what happens is so often people have that key, as you said, and they put it in the door. They may even open the door, but then they're hesitant to walk through. And then what happens is kind of, years later, they really regret not taking that step in. And it's so important. Neil, we're going to bring you in a second to ask your question. But, Tao, what do you think holds back people from taking that step in?
Fear of the unknown, or fear of repeating failure, fear of getting a no, no, you can't do this, or fear of succeeding, fear of success.
Right.
A lot has to do with fear. For me, it's like, just go for it, go for it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You just move forward. You just keep going, I mean, just go out there and get it. And if maybe it's not for you, maybe something else is for you. And I that's why I think that a lot of people are in our lives to mentor us, to help us. And so all you have to do is ask for help from someone or guidance
Right.
from someone, and you will get that.
Makes sense. All right. So listen, Neil had a question, but I think he's taking a little leave. So I'm going to bring in. So Sally Ann has a great question that she'd love to ask you. So let's bring in Sally Ann. Here we go. It's kind of cool, isn't this, by the way?
It is. And I got to turn my mic. Is my mic on?
You're good.
Hey, Al,
Yep.
good to meet you. Actually, I had a real privilege when I graduated from high school, from university in Canada. I'm Canadian. I traveled around the Pacific Islands, spent a lot of time in Fiji and Tonga and the Cook Islands. I mean, I just loved the islands. One thing that I was always really amazed by was that everybody could sing. Like, everybody could sing. I would go to the church and people sang. I mean, it was just amazing. So that's just a compliment to your gene pool, that everybody seems to be able to really sing from where they're born. It doesn't matter. My question was really more around, opera is singing, but it's about telling stories. And I was thinking about my favorite musical, and actually my favorite biography of all times is Hamilton. The book was really which captured me first. I remember when somebody said, "Oh, you've got to see this musical," and I thought, it's rap. I'm not interested in it. But it wasn't what I was expecting at all. In fact, it let me learn that I could enjoy some forms of rap because I was so enticed by the story of Hamilton and who he was and what he represented and how his legacy lives on to today. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Hamilton's music would go well with an opera singer. Have you ever tried to sing Hamilton songs? And do you like them? Like, I mean, I got to tell you, the one the King does, I'll Be Back, I think it's an opera song, really. Just your thoughts.
I'll be honest with you. I've never seen it, and I've never heard the music from it.
Wow.
And so I couldn't answer that question, but I totally understand where you're coming from, because music is universal. Whatever language one sings in, whatever type of music, it is there to inspire the listener. It is there to inspire the performer. And so, if Hamilton and the singers or the performers have inspired you, then, they have done their job.
Yeah. Well, just
and
as a
so,
side note,
yeah,
I was just going to say that as a side note, I could have never forced my kids ever into, I couldn't even have bribed them into reading Hamilton, the book. But when we sat down, we watched it actually just on Disney Plus. We watched the Hamilton on Disney Plus, and they were enthralled. And now they know the story of Hamilton. And again, I think that there's a lot of stories out there like Hamilton that come across really amazing. So that's my follow-up question, which is, what is your favorite opera?
That's a hard one to answer, because there's so many great ones. I always tell someone, when I'm asked this question, I always say it's the opera that I'm working on now. So the opera that I'm working on now is Pagliacci. And so that's my favorite opera.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much, Tal.
Thanks, Sally. I appreciate it.
Thank
Those
you.
great questions. Interesting. It's yeah, like you said, you have to say either the one now. It's like asking, who's your favorite child kind of a thing. And you may have one inside, but you don't. It's almost like you don't want to say it out loud because it's almost I don't want to say jinxing it or something, right? But that's interesting. And I'm going to ask maybe my follow-up question. And Jerry, you're on deck. We're going to bring you in, but I can't ask this. Other than opera, do you have any, like, list a couple of favorite other types of music that you like to listen to, or favorite, if it's at all, rock, jazz, whatever it is, favorite bands, that kind of stuff?
I like them all. It all depends on the mood that I'm in and stuff. Like when I work out, I like to listen to some, it varies from reggae to some hip hop to some metal. When I was playing football, there were times where we had to, especially in high school, where they put you in this room right before the game and people have their headphones on and everything, and you listen to whatever music that would get you ready for the game. So whatever music for me, like when I would come home and I just want to chill out or whatever, I would play. So I listen to everything from rap to opera to whatever. I listen to everything.
All right.
Country.
Oh yeah. Wow. I don't know if I pictured that, but I guess I didn't picture you listening to metal either. So that's all good. It's pretty wild. All right, Jerry, why don't you come on in and ask your question? It's a good one. I like it. All right.
All right. Tal, thank you for hopping on this platform. Mark, thank you for hosting.
Of course.
So my question for you, Tal, is, typically in sports, especially with professional athletes, you compete for self-improvement and team accomplishment, overall team accomplishment. You want to be a part of that puzzle piece that completes the big picture. So for football, any other sports, most of the time winning a championship is the end goal. That's what every single professional athlete wants, to win a championship. For opera, what is your end goal? Or are you doing it strictly just because this is what makes you happy?
Good question. Yeah, I think my goal is to sing at all the big houses in the world and also the small houses in the world, because I believe that opera is not just for the big houses where, the majority of a lot of the rich people go to or whatever, but to go to a small town and sing at it or share, for me also is sharing this gift that I've been blessed with, like Mark and I were talking about earlier, like when I did my road trip, is stopping at a small town on a Sunday afternoon while they're having church and go in there and say, you know what, I'm an opera singer, can I sing something? And get up there and sing an a cappella or something like Amazing Grace or whatever. But for me, it's to share the gift that you've been blessed with. And that would be the same thing as for me as, winning the championship.
Wow.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome.
A good question, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. All right. That was well done. See, I don't even need to ask all these great questions. I can just tee up all these other people. This is, I'm going to do this the rest of the night. But anyway, so look, I know that Neil had a question, but I think he keeps on bouncing in and out. So I'm just going to ask it for him. Neil, don't hate me if you just showed up again. But, he was curious to know, are you more exhausted? Yeah. It's your Neil.
Neil?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Barkley. Yep. Neil Barkley. So he says, are you more exhausted after performance than you were after a game?
That's another good question. Both, because I believe in giving 100% of performing and playing on the field, on the stage, and to walk off the field or the stage feeling exhausted or good about yourself, that you have literally gave it your all, and so I would say both. Yeah.
All right, that's good. All right, look, I'm not going to bring Trevor in to ask this question because I think he's asking something that we all want we all want to talk about. And I guess I can't tell if you can actually see it or not, his question. So you're going to be, this is something we have to ask, I suppose. Is there something that you feel comfortable belting out 15 or 20 seconds of now? And can you do it? Or is it tough sitting down on a couch and like whatever it is? And or
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
probably another time.
All right. Well, and then I was going to say maybe you can sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" or something like that. But and I know you know that one. You got to know that one. But no, that's cool. Well, listen, we're going to bounce back to the tables for a few minutes, and I know there's a couple of people that would love to say hello to you before you skip off. But you know, I really I mean, listen, I've known you now for a couple of years, and you know, what I have to say is that what helps everything out with what you're doing is that, you know, again, you're genuinely super, you're a nice guy. You've gone through a lot, but you've come out on the other side. I was going to say victorious, but I mean, the point being that you've excelled twice, and you're such a fantastic role model from my perspective, because I love to speak to people who have, you know, played a sport, they've left their sport, and then they've hit a home run afterwards. And what I mean by that is that you've really become elite again. And it's something that I believe all athletes really need to see that. They need to see that it is possible to leave a sport, leave their game, whether they've been injured, whether they're too old, whether this, whether that, whatever it is. But virtually everybody that leaves a sport, whether you're a student athlete and you're still very young, 21, 22, or you're a professional and you may be 25, 26, or even early 30s, you're still at the very start of your life, really. So what I you know, love best about your story is the fact that you kind of hit that reset button, and now you're at the top of your game again. And so I want to make sure that as many people as possible hear that, because it's such a profound story. It's a great story. So thanks for being part of this. I really appreciate it. And if you have other questions, anybody, feel free to ask Tao directly at the tables. We're going to jump back, but thanks again, Tao, for being part of here in the club room and part of the Win Again Academy and what we're doing here. Just out of curiosity, what do you think of this platform, aside from, you know, maybe some challenges getting in and all that kind of stuff, but what do you think of?
No, this is I think this is really cool. I mean, this is much better than Zoom. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, I'm happy that you introduced this to me, and I will introduce it to a lot of other people.
All right. Well, I like that. Thank you. All right. Well, listen, we're going to jump back. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see everybody back at the tables, and appreciate your time, Tao, as always. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for being part of the Clubroom event today. It's been great having you on board. Check out all the resources available to the Win Again Academy. Go to the website, markmoyer.com, and you'll see all the previous events, podcast episodes, articles, and so much more. Check it out. And look, if you're an athlete, if you're an entrepreneur and a founder, or an executive looking to elevate your game and really take your business and your career to a whole new level, consider becoming a Win Again Academy member. We'd love to have you on board, because you get access 24/7 to an incredible Slack community of other members where you can really elevate your network and meet some really impressive people. You'll also get a personalized copy of my book, Win Again, the job search handbook for athletes and non-athletes looking to really transform their life and their career. You'll also get seamless entry into the Clubroom events. And these events are absolutely amazing. Table-to-table networking, conversations with everybody at your own pace. It really is fun, but also incredibly great for your network. You got to check those out. You'll also get discounts to future VIP events that we've got lined up. So consider joining, be a part of this community, be a part of that Slack channel. Come to these events. You'll meet some amazing people. Go to markmoyer.com/join-today and take advantage of all the things that you have to offer for an incredibly, incredibly great price. Check it out. We'd love to see you there, and see you in the club room soon. Thanks.